You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.
Not afraid to say it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a special coronavirus social distance edition of the People Before Politics radio show. We are on every Sunday 6 to 8 on inthemixradio.com. I am your host, AJ Woodson. My partner in crime, Damon K. Jones, will not be on the show today. He got called into work. He was expected to be on with us, but I do have my partner, Dr. Bob, who will be checking in a few. I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Please feel free to share this. It's on my page, Damon's page, and several other pages. Feel free to share it with others. Our special guest tonight is Westchester County District Attorney Anthony Scarpino, who will be making his People Before Politics radio show debut, which we're very excited about that. It's the first time to actually interview him. He has never been on the show before, but he will be here tonight. I know all of y'all are tired of sitting in the house. I know this whole social distancing thing has got everybody going crazy. You feeling you got that cabin fever thing going on. Trust me, I do too. But we're just trying to keep the show must go on. Coronavirus or no coronavirus, the show must go on. We're gonna have a couple of special episodes this week because we canceled the last 3 or 4 candidates interviews because of the coronavirus situation. Last week we didn't actually have a live show on Sunday. The week before that we were off on the 8th. So on the 15th we actually just dealt with the coronavirus. We had a special guest, Dr. Rabati from Yonkers, who broke down what the coronavirus is. He got defunct a lot of the myths and gave the facts. You can go to blackwestchester.com, pull up that interview anytime you want. This is my first time, so I want y'all to bear with me. This is also my first time working this particular app. We've been using it for a minute, but Damon is usually running it, and I just chime in. But since he had to go to work today, I am actually doing everything. So I want y'all to bear with me. Hopefully, there won't be too many hiccups and all that. Dr. Bob is about to join me shortly. Later said, hola. Dawn Seawright said, good afternoon, good evening, good Sunday evening. Damon K. Jones and AJ Woodson. Luis Cherico said, hello, everybody. we're going to, of course, so we don't have phone lines for you to call in. So definitely there will be no call-ins if anybody asks that question. But you can type your comments you can type your questions and comments and feedback in the comment section, either on the Be Live app or on Facebook itself, under the video, on either my page or Damon's page, and we will try to address get all questions and address everybody. Shout out to Atif Khalil. He's tuned in. He said hello. What's going on, Atif? As I don't know if you heard me say, our guest today is Westchester County District Attorney Anthony Scarpino, making his People Before Politics debut. And yes, Aleda, this is my I'm always clean shaven for the most part on the radio show, but since we all stuck in the house, I'm letting my Corona beard grow. I did a little survey on Facebook. Seems a lot of people told me I should continue to grow it. I got a lot of positive feedback. Shout out to Nas Duncan, Nesta, and several others gave me some feedback. Where do residents go to register for pre-screening at Mount Vernon Hospital? Atif, that's a very good question. I have yet to find that out, but I plan to try to find that out this week. So hopefully I will have that and be able to report that. Shanice Coleman said, please ask when a city elected official was punched in the face by a former Mayor Richard Thomas by his brother, by Mayor Thomas' brother, why the DA didn't intervene. We're going to try to ask them about everything. Yes, Atif, if you find the information before I do, please let me know. Shout out to Atif. He's branching out a lot more on his own, and he's really holding it down, covering Mount Vernon City Hall. He's been very due diligent. I want to give him a shout out because, some people complain, but that means you're doing a good job, brother. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're ruffling some feathers. You're getting the news to the people. You're getting answers to the questions. You're informing the people. And I just want to congratulate you on the job well done, my brother. Shout out to Derricks and Lawrence. He's tuned in. What's going on, sir? Again, we have today's guest is Westchester County District Attorney Anthony Scarpino, making his first People Before Politics, making his debut today. We're not taking any calls, of course, because I don't have phone lines. As you see, we're doing this. I'm at the lab. Dr. Bob is at his spot, and the Westchester DA will be wherever I guess he will be home too. Latif said, thanks a lot. It means a lot coming from. No doubt, dude. I just want to give you your props, for real. And the other thing, and the only advice I would give you, just always make sure you keep dropping the facts, dude. You research, keep researching everything. And also, there's a saying, and people ask me, what's the secret to success? I don't know the secret to success, but the secret to failure is trying to please everybody. Doing this kind of job, you will never please everybody. Someone will always be upset with you. Someone will always feel like you shouldn't be talking about the things you're talking about. But that is the job of a journalist, a community journalist, whatever they want to call us. Some people just say blogger, but whatever it is, that's the job to hold the elected officials' feet to the fire, to inform the residents, to get to the bottom of the stories and talk about the stuff that people are scared to talk about. That's part of the job. And it won't get you on everybody's Christmas card list. Depending on who's in office, you'll have, let's put it this way, when Ernie Davis was in office, none of them liked me. But Richard Thomas people loved me. But then when Richard Thomas got in, all Richard Thomas people that used to congratulate me and tell me what a great job I was doing, all of them hated me. And Ernie Davis people became friends. You know what I'm saying? So you're never going to make everybody happy. You're never going to please everybody. Someone is always going to be upset. someone's always going to not want you to talk about what you're talking about. So continue to do a great job. Derrickson Lawrence said, thank you for journalistic leadership. Thank you, sir. That means a lot coming from you. I greatly appreciate that. Again, you didn't always see eye to eye to me in the beginning of some of the stories I covered either. Like a lot of people, depending on who you cover, they'll feel you or not feel you. But the thing is to keep your integrity, to keep it 100 all the time. And that's all you could do, man. That's all you could do, Atif. And you are the future of whatever this is. Me and Damon ain't gonna be able to do this forever. You are the future of this. So, Black Westchester will always support you. You got to start here. We support what you're doing. Bob, if I can get a microphone check, if you're ready to come on the screen, let me know. All right. So Bob is about to come on screen in 2, 3, 1, right about now. Oh, I gotta take my solo off. Right about now.
AJ, what's happening, man? How are you
today?
There
we go. Hold on. Take that off. Take that off. Now it's just me and you. Yes, sir. So I just wanted to introduce this my partner, Dr. Bob. A lot of y'all always say I haven't seen Dr. Bob in a very long time. What's going on with Dr. Bob? He's been MIA, and I always say you in the lab working on something. So let's take this time to let everybody know what you've been working on, what you've been up to, because you haven't been on the show, and
right.
People have been asking about you.
Well, for one, I want everyone to know that I continue to give my unwavering support to AJ, Damon Jones, and all the rest of the members of the Black Westchester team. As you know, AJ, I've been at home trying to do some serious research on a book project that I'm working on, because in order for me to find stable employment in the university, I really need to put together this book. I've been at it for some time now, and it's it's a good time to work on it. So that's what I've been doing. But, I see you every week, brother. Yeah, so that so I've been working, in addition, I've been making, like so many other people today, I've been busying myself trying to make the transition to web-based work. In my case, as in my profession as a college instructor, that hasn't been too difficult. Because, primarily I'm just interacting with people and talking with them. So I've been fortunate to be able to hold on to my job. However, like so many other people today, I'm deeply, deeply concerned both about the immediate short-term impact that the coronavirus is likely to have on the residents of the city of Mount Vernon, the broader Westchester County, the nation as a whole, and actually the entire global community. I think this is a global crisis, and none of us are exempt from the threat that the coronavirus poses to us. So I've been, like everyone else, thinking about those things. So as I was saying, the immediate short-term response, but just as importantly, AJ, the long-term economic consequences of the coronavirus. I'm sure many of our viewers have heard commentators on their television programs, and also journalists in the print media raise the possibility that we may well find ourselves on the verge of a major economic downturn, if not an recession. And I think we're already technically, the nation is in a recession. But this crisis is so far-reaching and of such depth that many of us are concerned that indeed we may be on the verge of a Great Depression. And although I'm not sure we're going to have an opportunity to talk about it on today's show, because we do want to focus on District Attorney Scarpino's re-election bid, and why, and why the voters of Westchester should give him his vote. One thing that I think we do have to begin to prepare ourselves for, community, family, is the prospect that there will be a collapse of significant sectors of our economic system. There will be massive layoffs. I think we have to prepare for a 20% unemployment rate in the city of Mount Vernon. And one of the questions that we have to confront is, how are we going to procure the basic requirements for our health and well-being if the economy effectively collapses. I want to take this as an opportunity to remind viewers to freshen up on your history of the Great Depression. Read some of the articles, some of the documentaries, take a look at some of the picture footage from that time period. And one indelible memory that you're going to all walk away with is the massive kind of food lines and other signs of social upheaval that were commonplace during the Great Depression. And, you know, everyone, we cannot take for granted. I think it should be very clear from the slow-footed, often inadequate and inept response of elected officials at all levels of government that those officials, unfortunately, in many instances, are ill-prepared to take care of our needs. Indeed, if they are not inclined, if they're even inclined to, because so many of our politicians have been putting their own electoral or even financial interests over the interests of the people, the constituents that they serve. So I'm hoping, AJ, that in some subsequent sessions, we'll have an opportunity to talk about how the community of Mount Vernon can begin to initiate independent projects to make sure we're going to be able to eat and all the other requirements that, you know, we'll still have in the days ahead, you know, that we have a plan. We're starting to formulate some sort of plan to address these. And I also hope that although I think it's important for the residents of Mount Vernon to begin to launch independent community-led initiatives, I do think that there is a place in this search for solutions for our elected officials. And so I hope at some point after the campaign season is over, we'll have an opportunity to have some of those critical elected officials join us on air and talk about the kind of contingencies that they've already begun to make and what citizens can do to be sure that the full burden doesn't fall on government's shoulders.
Absolutely. Couple of comments real quick. Shanice Coleman said, Black Westchester rocks, and so does People Before Politics. She said, hi, Dr. Bob. Aleda said, hey, Bob.
What's up, baby? Aleda, how are you today? Good to see you, hear your voice.
Teron Lewis Sr. is watching. Diane Atkins is watching. Thank you all for tuning in. For those who just tuned in about 10 minutes or so, we are scheduled to have Westchester County District Attorney Anthony Scarpino make his People Before Politics debut, first time on the show. We're going to, talk about his record, things that he's proud of, why you should vote for him. And then some, we'll be talking about some of the issues that have come up under his, while he's been in office. One also want to touch upon, and, we try to inform the people what this coronavirus means to the court system, about cases being prosecuted. I had heard a story from several people that I know pretty well that a judge refused to hear a case of a New Rochelle woman like 10 days ago. I don't know if the case got dismissed or what, or postponed, but he refused to hear that case. And this when New Rochelle was that hot spot and National Guard started coming in there and everybody was scared to go to New Rochelle. He refused to even hear a New Rochelle case. I know that's one situation. So I would like to hear from the district attorney on how this impacts the court system and their ability to prosecute. And, also several of the DAs are releasing inmates early, 6 months or less left on their time. And they're releasing them, for the safety of the, the jails. A lot of the, I'm hearing that it's already been reported by LOHA. There's been at least 1 or 2 cases, people, staff members or inmates testing positive. We got, this is hitting everybody. I just want to address that. This is hitting everybody. Even the owner of the New York Knicks, Dolan, Mr. Dolan got it. I was talking to my cousin. He's a sports writer. I was making a little joke. I mean, I don't want to joke about anybody who has it, but you know, he's always micromanaging everybody. You know,
I was. If he wasn't like that, even occurred to me, and I'm not even a basketball fan, AJ.
If he wasn't,
it didn't go over my head.
If he wasn't micromanaging, he was in the box in the office with like the rest of the owners. He might not have got it now. But you know, it hits everybody. But he is an over micromanager. That is in his resume. Even when you bring people in like Phil Jackson, who has the pedigree of a championship pedigree, he can't do the job that you brought him in to do because you're micromanaging. You know, that's why Pat Riley left. He wanted that position of the general manager, and they wouldn't give it to him. And then you see he went down to the Heat, and you see what he brought to you see what he turned the Heat into, championship team. You know what I'm saying? This is what he wanted to do, make those decisions. Who to bring on and all that stuff. You know, general manager position, but they refused to give it to him. So we lost Pat Riley, and he went to Miami, and he did his thing. We lost the pedigree of Phil Jackson. Several coaches have come and gone. Several players have come and gone. I mean, you know, some people was ready to write Carmelo off, but I mean, he's still dropping 20 a night. Well, the season's kind of postponed right now, but he was dropping 20 a night on the new team he's on. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, evidently he still had a little basketball left in him. So, but anyway, you know, he caught it for the I almost said New Jersey. The Brooklyn Nets, including Kevin Durant, caught it. You know, and that is one particular case that I always bring up because he was the one person who didn't get tested because he was feeling symptoms. The owner decided that he was going to have the whole team tested, and he tested positive. Still has no symptoms, still healthy, still feels nothing. You know what I'm saying? But he's positive. And if that teaches us anything, that means any one of us could feel like it's all good, and we could be walking around and we could be affecting everybody that we come in contact with, not knowing that we have it, especially with the lack of testing in the black and brown neighborhoods, especially the poorer neighborhoods, and a dense population like Mount Vernon per se. I mean, this is we have more people per square inch in any other place in Westchester County. You understand what I'm saying? That means, you know, you come in contact more. So like I said, and then, you know, if Westchester was to release some of those inmates and maybe one or two of them was positive, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's hard to say that they're gonna keep staying in the house. They just got locked up. They just got out. They're not gonna want to be staying in the house. Gonna feel like they locked up in the house. They're gonna want to hit the block a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Which if any of them have it and have not been tested, they're there. So I think we're about whatever numbers that they are reporting in Mount Vernon, especially, but all through everywhere. I think you can times it by 10 at least, because there's so many people walking around that we don't know have it. And you know, they told you young people couldn't get it. Young people getting it left and right. Look at all them people that laughed at it. All of those spring breakers in Miami. A lot of them are coming down with the virus now. You know what I'm saying? A lot of them saying, "Oh, maybe we shouldn't have went to spring break." Yeah, y'all wasn't listening. Y'all were laughing like because y'all thought young people couldn't get it. Young people, that's my message to most young people. Yo, everybody straight up, everybody stay your ass in the house. I mean, that's the bottom line. Everybody stay your ass in the house. If you don't have to be out, there's no need to be out because you don't know who you're going to come in contact with, either giving it to them or getting it and then bring it back to your whole household. You know what I'm saying? So that's the biggest thing that I think everybody's trying to get across right now. Everybody stay your ass in the house if you can. I know, you know, family can be family and, you know, you have the whole family stuck in the house, you know, that can be some mixed emotions up in there. But you know what? It's better to have that uncomfortableness of everybody being in the house than people being dead. I mean, point blank. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, we can all go out and we all get it, and some people gonna die. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's the realism of the whole situation. A couple of comments. Later say, good job, AJ. 17th, New York 17th congressional candidate Alsha Castleberry Hernandez is tuned in. How are you doing? We got to do a follow-up interview closer to the primary. And I'm waiting to find out who officially made the ballot yet, because I don't think we know yet who officially made the ballot. I think they should be finding out soon. Let's see. Aleda said, doing well, Bob. Ask the great questions I know you can ask. Make me proud. That was what Aleda said to you, Bob. You heard that?
Yeah, I'm going to try. That's a
said, good job
to live up to, but I will try.
Shout out to Charles Stern from Red Blue Talk. He's tuned in. He said, I like this format. Yeah, Charles, this is something new we're trying out. This is the coronavirus pandemic social distancing edition. We got to do it. We got to keep the show going. The show got to keep going, but we got to find new and innovative ways to get the word to the people, to keep reaching out, to keep this thing going. Because this may actually be the future of things. We really don't know. This could be what the future looks like. Seriously. Anitra Gerald Hadley said, are they being tested prior to release? That is the $1 million question, Anitra. I'm trying to find out. Well, first off, Westchester is one of the district attorneys who has not made that decision yet. And we will talk about that with the district attorney whenever he gets here. Holmes A. Millie said, keep up the good work. Asha Castleberry Hernandez said, I am great. Wonderful. 7 candidates. So are there 7 candidates in your race that made the ballot, Asha? Or there's still there's 7 running? Cheryl Blue Brownlee Fox is tuned in. Brenda L. Crump said, maybe a prerequisite of being released, the inmates should be tested, and if found, plus isolate them there in the prison. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted, since Asha had raised the issue about candidates for the upcoming season, I wanted to ask you, were you aware that the governor announced yesterday that he was pushing back the April, I believe, 23rd primary election to June? So there has been a change.
Well, no, the primary was June. Yeah. June 20-something, 20. All you candidates, the primary date. Give me the primary date. It's June 20-something.
But the April primary. So we had, was it?
Well, so
the primary was scheduled for next month, for April.
For June, yes. No. They were supposed to get their signatures, and they're supposed to be handing in, I think, their signatures by sometime the beginning of April, and then find out, I guess, within a week if they made the ballot. So I think that's what it is. Asha said June 23rd. The primary is June 23rd. Cookie Alexander Campbell said, no, it was April 28th. April 28th. No, April 28th is the presidential primary, and that was moved.
Thank you.
That was moved to June 23rd. The primary for Westchester local New York State was always June 23rd. Okay.
Thank you for the clarification.
And that was Charles Stern. Charles Stern always got the info. Shout out to Charles Stern. Yes. Melissa Patterson said, I believe it might be the presidential primary that got moved back. That's correct. Asha said they had to hand in their signatures by March 17th. And Cookie said, no, AJ, there was an election on April 21st. That we found out that's the presidential and congressional, I guess. Because the congressional was early too. Because I remember when Engel and Derrickson Lawrence ran, their primary was way before everybody else's. But I thought that got moved to June. Everything in New York State got moved to June. Louise Cherico said they should be isolated upon release. I agree. First off, I just want to be clear. Westchester County DA has not released the inmates. They have not made that decision that they're going to even release inmates. But the question is, will they? Because the other district attorneys are doing that. So we don't. So I just want to be clear. There hasn't been a decision yet, as far as we know. And when we get the district attorney on, we will definitely ask him. So we cleared that up. The primary is June 23rd. The presidential is got pushed back too. So thank you everybody for tuning in. That's why it's a great show. All of y'all come with that info. Y'all come with the data. Brenda Crump used to be always on point. She used to always hit us with stuff. We'd be talking about stuff. She'd look it up real quick and give me and Damon the information. You think we know all that stuff. Brenda was feeding us the information on the low. Atif said, stimulus money. As you may know, hashtag Trump approved the $2 trillion Corona Relief Fund. This means that every American will receive money from the federal government. See more. This is how you apply. He put a link for the IRS, irs.gov /coronavirus. As of now, registration is not available yet. Bookmark that link and keep checking for updates. Thank you, Atif. And he said, wow, there's Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob. Atif said that. Wow, there's Dr. Bob.
Like some nearly extinct species or something. Look, so there's a Dr. Bob.
As I spoke,
what's up, Atif? How are you today, brother?
As I spoke Brenda's name, she said, what's being said about the school board trustee May election? So we obviously have a school board election this year, and we also have a Mount Vernon Public Library trustee election this year, which should be coming up very soon.
There are a whole series of elections that are in the offing that they've been disrupted, and it would be nice if we would, it would be nice if the citizens of Westchester knew exactly what was going on. It would be great if our election commissioners could come on air one night, maybe, and join us one evening, and join us. And
absolutely. And I'm seeing that I believe our district attorney is coming in now. DA Scarpino, if you are ready, give me a thumbs up and we're going to put you on the screen. Are you ready? He said, yes, we can hear you. I am putting you on screen now. You are on screen. Hold on. Why am I? There we go. Whoa. There we go. There we go. Let me introduce to you and welcome to the show, Westchester County District Attorney Anthony Scarpino. First time ever on the People Before Politics radio show. I am AJ Woodson, and I'm with my partner, Robert Baskerville. Damon K. Jones had to work tonight, so he will not be joining us tonight. How are you, sir?
I'm okay. How are you feeling?
I'm great. I'm staying in the house. Got a cabin fever. Trying to get used to this new format. I was looking forward to sitting across from you and engaging in conversation with you, because we've only talked once or twice. Reggie Lafayette and I believe Mayor Davis then at the time were walking you around a lot in Mount Vernon to some of the events, and I got to meet you back then when you first.
We can do it again.
Absolutely. Now we and usually when we're in the studio, I have an applause button, and we applaud everybody when they come in. But I don't have an applause button now. So
don't worry, I'm gonna take care of you, District Attorney Scarpino.
I have to give you a manual applause. I just want to jump right into it. We're dealing with the coronavirus. I've had a doctor on 2 weeks ago, Dr. Rabati from Yonkers. He gave us all the health aspects of it, dealing with the facts and the fix and the rumors. And we're gonna have a pandemic expert come on and talk about the pandemic aspect of it. But what I would like to talk to you as the current Westchester County DA, how has this affected the way that you prosecute cases and cases being seen in Westchester County now? Because what I've heard, and I've heard this from somebody, a good source, but I have not confirmed it myself. There was a judge in Westchester who refused to see a New Rochelle resident's case. That's when the National Guard first got there and everything. About I don't know if he ended the case or postponed it, but he refused to have that case be heard. So how has this affected the whole Westchester County court system?
Well, it's been very fluid. As time has gone on, it has substantially changed and become more and more restrictive. Right now, all of the local courts are closed, but their cases are being brought up to the Westchester County Court. We have two parts on the first floor, one for local court cases and one for the felony court. in which emergency matters are being heard, emergency arraignments. But as you probably have been reading, all the jury trials have been canceled. Grand jury is not in session. All the other parts are not operational. There's a family court emergency section and a Supreme Court, but it's just for emergency matters. So there are not going to be any trials, and everything that can be done if an incident occurs in which a desk appearance ticket can be given, they're giving the desk appearance ticket and putting it out a month to try to reduce the footprint of the public in the court. It is, when it comes to our office, it's had substantial impact. We have, at one point in time, it was supposed to be 25% of our people working from home, then 50%, 75%. Our office now is, we have a certain number of people in the office, a low percentage. Most people are working remotely. We have to handle those parts, but starting Monday, according to Judge Warhit and Judge Kathy Davidson, who I'm sure you know is the administrative judge for the 9th Judicial District, we are going to be able to, as district attorneys, handle them remotely. And maybe now the prisoners will also be remotely. That's going to be very much up to Legal Aid Society. So it's having its impact. Arrests are down. Most people are inside. It does concern us because we expect that there are, even though we're not necessarily getting those reports, we're expecting there to be additional scams going on. Did I just lose you? Do you have me? I think I lost you.
No, you're there. You have the full
Are
screen.
you still there, AJ?
We're here. Full screen. Are you talking?
I just lost them.
Can you hear us?
Switch back. Switch back.
Can
AJ.
you hear us?
There we go.
AJ, you back?
Yeah.
Can
I'm sorry. You there?
Explain it to him.
Yeah, we didn't lose. You didn't lose. We didn't lose you. I gave you the full screen while you were talking.
Because we lost you.
Yeah.
So we're expecting, the scam artists, to change their MO, talking about coronavirus. We're getting some reports of that. We're very concerned about issues of domestic violence because although we're not getting an increase in numbers of complaints, we're concerned that that's because the people that are the victims don't have the freedom to make those complaints. Everybody is within the house. So it's an interesting time for all of us. But with the people being inside, crime in general has been down. At least the arrests have been down.
Two things. One, how is for domestic violence situation, which is usually imminent, for people to make complaints if the court is not in session, how is that being handled?
Well, we have a domestic violence unit. They can report it to the local police department or call 911. But in addition, during regular working hours, we have the special prosecution office is taking phone calls, and they will handle those cases. That's 995, 3200, I believe. And so, we are able to investigate them, speak to people when they call, provide them with assistance in connecting them with groups like Hope Store, giving them an exit strategy, providing them with orders of protection. These would all be emergency matters that we could be involved in.
You got one question. How are parole violations being handled as there is a time restraint attached to the presentation of the case?
How are parole violations? Is that
being
the question?
Being handled,
right,
yes.
So parole violations are not something that we would normally be handling. Parole would be state prison.
Okay.
So that would be something that would be handled up there. Now, if you are talking about violations of probation, individuals that maybe are on probation and in which the probation officer is filing a complaint that they're not cooperating, those matters are going to be, remember, if you violate probation, it's the judge who's going to be making that determination as to whether you should be taken off probation and whether you should be released from probation, whether you should be incarcerated for your violation. So those violations are going to be filed not by us, but by the Department of Probation. And if they do file them, the judges will be hearing those cases. If at all possible, if it's something that's just a technical violation, I think the game plan is to not violate them. Our probation department seems to be has always been very liberal in regards to it. It's the chronic violators that tend to be brought back in. And I think at this point in time, they're trying to be more flexible in regards to it. But ultimately, it's the judge that makes that determination. Not too long ago, not too long ago, there was a case where we were suggesting the person be restored to probation, but the judge was dissatisfied with their cooperation and decided to restore them to jail.
One of the things we brought up before you actually got on, we were talking about district attorneys making the decision to release inmates coming close to the end of their term. But I know Westchester hasn't made that decision. Is this a consideration or something that's being considered or by the Westchester District Attorney's Office?
AJ, I'm sorry to say that you were breaking up in it, so I'm not sure I got the full question. You want to try it again?
Okay, let me say it one more time. So can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
You hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, so a lot of district attorneys are making the decision to release inmates early with this coronavirus situation. I know Westchester I haven't heard anything about Westchester making a decision like that. Is that something being considered by the Westchester County District Attorney's Office?
We are constantly asking the county for indications of the number of individuals that are being held presently. I believe, and I wish that Damon was present because he's a correction officer. Our most recent information is, our people that are being held in the county jail, those numbers are at the lowest level they've ever been.
Yes,
because of the change in the bail law, as well as our decisions that were involved, not arresting people for possession of small quantities of marijuana. And so the fact of the matter is, many of the people that are in jail right now are either violent felony offenders or people that are serving local sentences already. They're sentence prisoners or they're federal prisoners. So I think our numbers are very low. But I have asked just recently, just last week, the Corrections Department for a listing of those that were still being held pending trial so that we could take a look at it and see if there are additional matters in which we could seek to have them released. We did not get that information yet.
Are police departments being asked to consider, as far as arrests for minor crimes, like a small dosage, a small possession charge or something like that with the corona situation? Are they being asked to consider that before being prosecuted or being arrested and prosecuted? Or
yes, I think that their goal right now has been to try to issue desk appearance tickets on all nonviolent matters, try to reduce the number of people that are actually arrested if they feel it's appropriate. Arrests do occur, but when the goal is to issue desk appearance tickets. So then you can put it out, the appearance date. You could put that appearance date out 30 days or however far out you'd like to. And we're seeing that. I get a list of the number of individuals that get arrested. It used to be on a daily basis. It would be 3 or 4 pages, maybe 40 names on it. Now it's like 5 or 6 people on a daily basis that have actually been arrested. So the numbers are down tremendously. And when they do get arrested, the judges, if they feel it's appropriate, we are seeking, if it's a nonviolent crime, we are not asking for bail. But always remember, it's the judge that ultimately makes that decision.
Dr. Bob, you got some questions?
So District Attorney Scarpino, I know that all of the district attorney's offices across the United States are overwhelmed. Is
there a question coming in? Because I don't hear it.
Can you speak up, Bob?
Can you hear me, District Attorney Scarpino?
He's shaking his head no.
I'm not hearing anything.
I don't know. AJ, you can hear me fine, though.
I can hear you clearly. I don't know why he's not hearing you. I'm hearing you.
Okay.
Well, so ask the question, then I'll repeat it. I'm going to repeat it for you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. I want to know if I understand that the courts have made provisions to allow attorneys and to participate in courts through a teleconference. But I want to know, given the disparity that legal aid in the representation that legal aid attorneys, despite their best efforts, usually provide for many indigent.
Are you hearing something? Because I'm not.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it. Yeah, I'm trying.
Please ask him to wait.
This is a lot harder than we thought it would be, huh?
Yeah.
AJ,
yeah.
Please ask him to wait a moment.
He will. He will. Go ahead. But I have to repeat it, so go ahead.
So, in any case, it raises fundamental issues of fairness if we're going to continue to have trials in which both lawyers for both parties, for the state and the accused, participate in teleconferencing, because already legal aid attorneys are not able to provide adequate representation to indigent convicts under the best of circumstances. Is it even a wise idea to continue to hold trials under these circumstances? Is it going to be fair?
Okay, so I'm going to try to paraphrase what he said, and it's about teleconferencing. Is it wise for attorneys to have cases, trials by teleconferencing when legal aid society is already overburdened and not able to handle the workload that they have? Is it wise to still have these cases via teleconferencing?
All right, so
it was more than that, but I'm trying to sum it.
Yeah, no, I think so, because it looked like it was a long question. So what is only being done right now, AJ, is that they are just doing emergency matters, emergency arraignments. We are not doing any trials of that nature. So the legal aid can appear if they want to. I believe they were in the courthouse last week trying to set up so they could do teleconferences, as well as we were. We felt very concerned about our assistant district attorneys and legal aid attorneys being in the courtroom under these circumstances. There were a lot of people in there, from corrections officers to prisoners and others. And we felt that it was best to try to do it by way of Skype or by teleconference. And the chief administrative judge, Judge Davidson, has authorized us to try to do it on Monday that way. I don't feel that they are, they're going to be overburdened in regards to doing these arraignments, because the arraignment numbers are down, the arrests are down. And we're not going to be doing trials, not going to be jury trials. We're not going to try to do those by teleconference.
Okay.
I'm just going to say, AJ, even pretrial motions.
What is continuing, though, is that our assistant district attorneys and legal aid are receiving, discovery packages. We are working on the cases that exist and trying to provide them under the new discovery law, the information by way of our electronic transfer of information. And that is continuing to occur. And I know that they are burdened we are burdened with accomplishing the task. The volume of information is tremendous that we get from the police departments and that we review. And then what we transfer to legal aid is substantial when they have to review it. So I've heard them talk about that burden.
I want to ask Dr. Bob to repeat his second part of the question so I can, because you didn't hear it. So repeat your question again, please.
I was saying, given the complexity even of pretrial motions and the amount of work that they can entail in some instances, I wonder, are we still providing an equitable playing field to defendants who are, ordinarily have vigorous rights, at least on paper?
Given the complexity of pretrial motions, was the second part of it? Say the second part again.
And the kind of work that often goes into them, and
the kind of work that goes into it. Are we going to have? Go ahead, Bob. Are we going to have?
Is it going to be fair?
Is it going to be fair? Okay.
Well, first of all, I think besides bail applications, motions are not being made at this time. The courts are not going to be deciding motions. Okay. Everything is being slowed down to just emergency purposes at this point in time. So as fairness. If nothing is going to be as good as when we were operationally, working full time, the judges were working full time, all the courts were open, all the motions were coming in. Everything has sort of been, except for emergency, they pushed the pause button, just like your life is on pause. The courts are sort of on pause, except for emergency purposes. We're getting orders of protection and things of that nature. We're doing emergency arraignments, but there's not really foils have been put on pause. Everything else has been put on pause until we get through this. But it's very fluid. It could change in a week. It could get better in a week or 2 weeks, or it could go the other way. I mean, right. I wish I had a crystal ball and I could tell you where this is going. I don't know.
So for the future, Bob, this was suggested by Hector Santiago. Shout out to him. He said, actually, if you either text me or write it out, and I can read your question verbatim, so I don't lose nothing in what you're saying, and I can read exactly what you're asking. And DA Scarpino. So one of the main reasons for having you is because you're running for re-election. Would you like to speak about your campaign? Speak about why you feel that people should vote for you for re-election in the upcoming Democratic primary.
Well, I've been the district attorney for 3 years. We've tried. When I came into office, I made certain administrative changes in the office to try to be as progressive as we could, to try to change the culture in the office. You may be aware that when I came in, even before the criminal justice reform occurred, I had made changes to bail. I had made a decision that we would not be seeking bail in any cases in which we would not be seeking jail time at the end of the case. So we were asking for ROR and all those minor cases, as well as nonviolent felonies. This was something very different than in the past. In the past, minor offenses, minor drug cases, people were in jail on $250, $500. And I felt it just didn't make any sense for an individual to be incarcerated for several months when at the end of the case, we might be seeking probation. So I made that change 1.5 years before the criminal justice reform came out. In addition, I also made a determination not to prosecute possession of small amounts under 2 ounces of marijuana for personal use, because that was a B misdemeanor. And I felt that B misdemeanor, the collateral damage that was occurring to individuals, was too substantial. Young people couldn't get into college because of it. You had problems with housing. You had problems with student loans, getting jobs that require licenses. So, it was having major impact on Black and brown communities in Westchester. So I made a decision 1.5 years before, the criminal justice reform to stop prosecuting those cases. And by doing that, those two aspects, we were able to help reduce the prison population in Westchester. Now, as effective January 1, the new bail is in, and we've had changes in the marijuana law, decriminalization by the state legislature. But I was ahead of the curve there. At the same time,
I want to interrupt you real quick, if you don't mind. So, sure. I did not know that you personally made some of these changes ahead of the bail reform. But let me just play devil's advocate. If that was the case, why wasn't there a significant decrease in the population till after the bail reform? Why did we see a lower? If that was the case, why did we start seeing this before the bail reform in the population?
The word significant is something that's hard to address, but there was definitely a reduction in the number of people that were being arrested for criminal possession of small amounts of marijuana, that we refused to prosecute them. Originally, police were making the arrest, but we refused to prosecute them. In addition, we were asking for releases on their own recognizance, as I told you, on any case in which we would not be seeking jail time. But when it comes to bail, that is ultimately a decision by a judge. And those judges, even if we asked for ROR, may have made a determination that they wanted to set bail. But this is the beauty of the new law that came into effect, because of the discrepancy between different communities. We have 40 different local courts, numerous judges. Every community is different. You could have a situation where a case petty larceny in Mount Vernon, which we requested an ROR, a person would be released, and then in another community, the judge would determine that they weren't going to release them. By the law eventually coming in, it was statewide mandated, and so we don't have that disparity.
I could be wrong, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, please. I thought I remembered way before the corona, and you were saying that crime had gone up because of the bail reform.
No. Well, because let's just say the bail reform came into effect January 1. Okay.
Yes.
Just this year.
Right.
From the time I got into office, January 1 of 2017 to the end of 2019, crime had dropped substantially in Westchester. That's one of the things I'm proudest of. And I can just sort of give you some quick statistics so you know that. Murders were down 33%. Murder with firearms down by 72%. Robbery down by 51%. Aggravated assaults down by 19%. Rape down by 24%. Larcenies by 30%. Burglary by 56%, almost 57%. So we had a tremendous drop every quarter going on throughout Westchester County during that period of time. Now,
can I ask the question if it's not too much to ask? Is it possible for you to email me the statistics at blackwestchester@gmail.com so we can have a cut? Because I'm not aware, I wasn't aware. I want to be able to talk about these things. If you have some statistics, I would greatly appreciate that.
That's no problem. But now we'll go to the next question, which you were talking about a possible rise in crime after the new bail came in. In Yonkers, and our initial numbers indicated in the first month since the bail reform came in, there were increases in larcenies and robberies, but murders, rapes, and other matters did not occur. And some people try to associate that completely with the fact of the new legislation. My feelings were, even though the numbers were disturbing, is that 1 month does not a trend make. After 2 months, we saw a smaller increase, and we're waiting to see what the new numbers are going to be like. But when you listen to, this information was being published, and you would listen to Andrew Stewart Cousins and many of the officials, they were concerned that there were maybe some unintended consequences on some of the bail legislation. Certain charges were not included that were we considered violent crimes in which you could not ask for bail.
Right. I want to interrupt you real quick because I'm trying to remember because I don't have this in front of me. There was I think at the county legislator meeting, you were speaking not in favor of the bail reform before all of this came into place. There was like a big meeting with the county legislator, maybe the county exec, and you, and it was on video.
Yes.
And it sounded like you were not in favor. This was before it passed. You were not in favor of the bail reform.
No, that's not so. That's not so. I was supportive of it, although I did raise the issue that there were certain crimes which I felt should have been included where we would be allowed to ask for jail time. I felt robbery. I felt home invasions. I felt A1 and A2 narcotics felonies in which you could expose a person to a life sentence, that those were charges in which bail should have been allowed to be requested. But I've always been supportive of the discovery reform and the bail reform, and I supported the County Board of Legislators. They did a resolution in support of it. I've testified at the Senate hearing run by Jamal Bailey in support of it, of the discovery law. But at the same time, my main concern was the discovery law, as important as it was unfunded. And because there's no funding, that meant all the local communities, all the local police departments, the district attorney's offices were not capable of complying with the law because of the lack of funding. So that was all I've ever spoken about. The goal is to be able to accomplish what the legislation provided. And all the other states that have passed these type of major discovery laws have also provided funding and infrastructure to accomplish it. And the New York legislature, unfortunately, did not. But they are revisiting it as we speak.
Okay. I wanted to talk now. I wanted to bring up something you've received a lot of criticism for. What is termed the bad cop list. I know Black Westchester was one of those who was a critic that other DAs had released theirs and you hadn't released yours, and then and named that one of your investigators were on the list. Was that why? And then after you released it, then you got criticism from several PBA organizations, Yonkers, Westchester County, and a few others for the release of it, for some of the names on it, because there were things like someone's DWI from 20 years ago, which does not make them an uncredible witness to testify in a trial. I wanted to give you, this is the first time we've actually talked. I would like to give you an opportunity to speak on the list, why you released the list, why you didn't release it when others, some of the criticism that you received on that. Okay,
so let's make sure people understand what we're talking about. We'll call it a Garrett list. When an individual, a police officer or any individual is going to testify in a trial, it's the responsibility of the district attorney's office to provide defense counsel with any information which might have impact on their credibility for cross-examination purposes. That has always been in existence. This listing that we're talking about that was published is that the only difference was something that we were going to publish. We had been district attorneys in New York City during the fall were foiled, freedom of information. We eventually were foiled also. I think in the Bronx, most district attorneys have not released a list of this nature. The only ones are the more progressive district attorneys. Darcel Clark. Actually, sorry to interrupt you.
I'm sorry. My research, all five boroughs eventually did release their list.
The boroughs did, but there are 62 counties, and most of the other DAs have not. But the Bronx was the first to do it. They released a list, I believe, in December. I think Manhattan was in January or so. We were foiled. We felt it was important to release this information for transparency purposes, and we prepared the list and we released it. Now, it's interesting. People on both sides were not happy with it. I sort of chuckle when people say, "Oh, I did it for political purposes." Well, I guess if the people on both sides are unhappy with it, it was a pretty stupid political move. The fact of the matter was, we did it because we felt that it was foiled and it was appropriate to release this information. That information is now has been released, and it is what it is. We have. I released it well ahead of most district attorneys. It had nothing to do with the campaign. It was motivated by being foiled, and we felt it was appropriate that we had to do it.
Dr. Bob has a question that I'm going to read to you, but I just want to follow up on the bad cop list. I know that's not the official name, but that's what is kind of termed. So I would like you to speak to the criticism that you received after releasing the list. Keith Olson, Yonkers PBA, I forgot the gentleman who's the head of the Westchester County PBA. They were very critical of the list that you did release. And one of the other critiques was a member of your intel, one of your investigators was on the list. So I want to give you an opportunity to speak to those things, because I haven't heard you speak on those.
All right, so I think it was the Westchester County PBA is Officer Hagan, and I believe Mr. Officer Olson. Yes, they represent the PBAs. The PBAs have not been, supportive of these lists ever being released. Darcel Clark and all of the DAs in Westchester were, taken to task by all the police PBAs for doing that. As I said, I did it for transparency purposes. In regards to the fact that I released a list that actually had a member of my investigative staff on it, the fact that it indicates that, it was an accurate list. Now, if you, in addressing that individual, I guess the question is, why did I hire this person? And the fact of it is, it was a very unique circumstance, and I'm happy to discuss it. First of all, the individual and I want you to know he's given me permission to talk about this because it's a personnel, matter. The fact of the matter is this individual, early on in his career, it was a special agent in the FBI, and he had picked up his daughter from daycare with his bureau car, which is against the rules. So it isn't the typical situation where maybe a police officer did something inappropriate during an investigation, went to a place he shouldn't have done, lied about where he found evidence or anything of that nature. It was an administrative matter. This person, after he was punished by the FBI, continued his 22-year career. The FBI promoted him on several occasions, eventually became an assistant special agent in charge of an office. He was a senior intelligence officer. He was a combat veteran in 2 overseas, a Marine officer, and he's an attorney. And I felt that it was very important for us to have a qualified, superior qualified individual to help us with our intelligence center. And so I met with him. I spoke with him. I was familiar with the nature of the discipline he received when back in the 1990s. But the FBI had gotten past it. I knew it had nothing to do with him doing anything wrong in a criminal investigation. And I'm a big. Just let me finish. AJ, just let me finish this.
I don't want to interrupt you. One quick question. What you said that didn't have anything to do with his credibility in a criminal investigation, what Keith Olson was saying, the guy who had a DWI 20 years ago, that had nothing to do with his credibility in testifying in a criminal investigation as well. So, I mean, I just wanted to bring, because you mentioned that, I wanted to.
Yes, so here's the part. But that doesn't mean that's a determination that a judge will make. All of those situations, whether you have if you're a police officer with a prior DWI or whatever it may be, has to be provided to criminal defense attorneys. And then the judge, if they're going to testify, and then the judge will decide whether that is worth going into or not, whether it's appropriate or not. And many times the judges will say, no, it's not. As far as I'm concerned, it's too remote. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't preclude us or allow us not to provide that information. We had that information, and that's why it appeared on the record. But let me finish talking about Mr. Ludlam. I interviewed him. He was interviewed for this position. I'm a person who believes in second chances, and I didn't feel that the nature of what he had done 20 some odd years ago by picking his daughter up in a vehicle was such that it should preclude him from coming to work for us under those circumstances. And so I made that decision. So people want to question my judgment in regards to it. I question their humanity.
Okay, I want to move on to that. Bob has a question. I need him to retype it or copy and paste it because we've gone past and I can't pull it back up. So Bob can really do that. I want to do some housekeeping real. So everybody, I'm hearing a lot of people tune in. I've heard a couple of people say they could not hear. So I need everybody who's tuned in. Can you hear me? Bob, say something. Bob?
I can hear you, AJ.
Talk, Bob, talk. Just say. Okay,
I can hear you.
I want people to, if you can hear Bob. Okay.
Yes,
I can hear me. If you can hear Bob. DA Scarpino, just say something real quick.
So I hear you, AJ, but I don't hear Bob or anybody else.
Okay. Okay, and I'm now, I want the people that are listening, can you hear the three of us? Because there were some complaints about that. One or two people said they couldn't hear something. So I just want to know if people can hear us. So, we're not, I don't want people to miss. There's a lot of important information be given, and I don't want that to be missed.
So, AJ,
Bob,
can I ask you,
copy and paste your
my
comment?
answers being recorded so that you could play them back at some point in time?
Yes, this is recorded. It will be on Black Westchester. We will share it, the same way we do that with all candidates. We take their interview and then post it separately, and so you can see it. So did you post your thing, Bob? Did you repost?
Yes.
Bob, I don't know if you heard me. I need you to repost.
Okay. I reposted it.
Okay. Okay. Been affiliated with the criminal justice system since I was running streets of Mount Vernon before. Okay, let me read this to you. This is Dr. Bob's question. Since you can't hear him, I have him typing it so I can read it to you and get his exact words. He said he's been affiliated with the criminal justice system since he's running the streets of Mount Vernon.
You're frozen.
well before he earning a PhD. Indeed, can you hear me?
I'm sorry, AJ, you're freezing on and off. Try it again.
Bob, can you hear me?
I can hear you,
Bob,
AJ, but your voice is, I can hear your voice is uneven.
Okay, let me read this again. Dr. Bob said he's been affiliated with the criminal justice system. Everybody can hear me so far?
Yes, I hear you.
Right? Okay. Since he was running the streets of Mount Vernon, well before earning his PhD. Indeed, he found himself in your court once a few occasions in the late 80s, early 90s. What's your assessment on social impact of law and order, broken windows policies that were first adapted when you were a sitting court judge?
Okay, great question. So I was a city court judge in Mount Vernon from 1984 to January 1st, 1989. I was appointed by Mayor Tom Sharp, and then I ran in 86 and was elected. And by 1988, I went to county court. I was elected to county court, and I was put into the special narcotics part. And that's where I learned that, you know, under the old Rockefeller law, everybody had the impression that you could prosecute yourself out of your problems. We had the crack epidemic, and the attitude was you can prosecute and put people in jail, and that was going to end the epidemic. And the fact of the matter is, I learned from that experience that that's not the case. You can't prosecute yourself out of these types of problems. What you have to do is if you have a major problem, whether it be the opioid crisis or whether it was the crack epidemic of the late 80s or whatever it may be, you have to have a two-pronged attack. First of all, you have to try to, let's look at it this way. If you're in a boat and the boat is taking on water, if you want to prosecute yourself out of that problem, you sit there and you try to bail it out. But you know you're not going to make a lot of progress. What you really have to do is stick your finger in the bottom of the boat and put your finger in the hole and stop the water from coming in. And that's what we have to do. We have to try to stop people from coming into the criminal justice system. We have to try to divert them outside the criminal justice system to community-based drug rehabilitation, community-based mental health, veteran courts, things of that nature. Because once they come within the criminal justice system and they go to jail, the likelihood of them eventually becoming productive members of society are tremendously reduced. And so I learned from that process that jail is not the sole answer. It is for the violent criminals. It's for those that profit in the nature of the demons that people have. But it's not the answer for the majority of people that are caught up in that cycle. So I've learned a lot from that. I think that's why you see that we've taken a very different approach now. We are working hard on trying to divert people outside the criminal justice system. We are spending time. We have district attorneys making 300 or so presentations in schools and to different community groups talking about, the dangers of drugs, violent crimes, gangs, everything you can think of, domestic violence. We try to talk to our young people about it, and we have to try to support and educate them to try to keep them outside of the criminal justice system as much as we possibly can. That's the only way we're going to have any real progress in the major problems that we have. We can't just prosecute ourselves out of them. So that's something I did learn from my time. There are some advantages to having gray hair.
Yeah, you can see I've let my corona beard grow and showing all my gray. Now it would be remiss of me. I have been critical of you, Black Westchester as a whole, but me as the editor have been critical of things that you have not prosecuted, especially when it came to corruption in the city of Mount Vernon. I've never really had a chance to speak to you since you've been in office. This is my first time actually talking to you. So I'm sure you've been aware of my critique on individuals, elected officials, of corruption in the police department, specifically to Mount Vernon. But we've talked about other police departments in Eastchester, $240,000 being embezzled by the White Plains PBA, Yonkers, which we've done extensive stories on corruption in Yonkers Police Department. Several cases coming up now. I would like to give you an opportunity to speak to this since we have been critical of it, and I would give you a chance to answer to those, to talk to the people,
okay.
Our audience.
So there's a lot of subgroups in that question. Let me start by this. First of all,
let's say the city of Mount Vernon. Let's talk about the city of Mount Vernon first.
All right. So, I of course get very distressed when I hear people try to suggest that my office and that I turn a blind eye to Mount Vernon. I have a very close relationship, myself and my family, in Mount Vernon. My family was one of the first 5 Italian families to move into Mount Vernon in the late 1880s. We lived on North Street. I was born and raised there. My father, born in 1906 in Mount Vernon. My mother, born in 1910 in Mount Vernon. And I lived there for 46 years. I graduated Mount Vernon High School. I spent, I played baseball on Memorial Field and Brush Park. I love Mount Vernon. And I've always been very distressed about the dysfunctional government I've been seeing over the past few years. Now, that being said, prosecuting people in the press versus prosecuting people in court are 2 different matters. We need, it's easy in the press to look at incidents, connect the dots, and say you have sufficient information to prosecute an individual in court. But in court, you need to have non-hearsay evidence that can be produced and that you have to prove a person's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And we've had several instances in Mount Vernon that I feel that I'm being unfairly treated in regards to. Let's start with Memorial Field, okay? I came into office in 2017, okay? The problems that were occurring in Memorial Field started in 2013, 2014. I want to stop you.
Sorry to interrupt you. I do want to stop you there because nothing we wrote about had to do with you and Memorial Field, but the corruption in City Hall and the corruption of the police departments.
Okay, well then.
So I do know that Memorial Field predates you, so I'd like to talk about the things that I've been critical of and give you a chance to answer those things.
Okay, well, I have to be honest with you. I don't recall everything that you've said, but I will say this. We've had, since I came into office in January 2017, we changed the investigative unit there. I put in a new chief of investigations. I put in, I hired a specially trained public integrity individual. We have prosecuted, we've had 38 convictions in public integrity since I've taken office. We have 20 pending investigations that are going on. Currently in Mount Vernon, I have, I believe, at least 3 police officers under indictment. Those cases are pending. We have prosecuted officers in other communities. We have prosecuted county employees, school people, school district people, lawyers. As I said, I think it was 38 convictions since I've gotten there. We have a robust public integrity group. Okay, and we're continuing to do those investigations. Now, I'm at a disadvantage because I can't really talk in depth about investigations that are pending. And so that's, is at a disadvantage because I'd love to be able to talk about them. But the fact of the matter is, as you are aware, we have at least 3 cases that we're currently prosecuting out of Mount Vernon involving the police department. So, that's something that I like to say. In regards to, I won't talk about Memorial Field, but I've heard a lot of people comment about the problems that occurred in Memorial Field. And the fact of the matter is, there have been investigations that were done by the federal law enforcement and the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office, in which they came up with an inability to identify improper activity that occurred there. Just because there was dirt there, you have to be able to prove who dropped it and was it dropped without permission. And we know that all of the dumping that occurred was done with the permission of the mayor. It's public knowledge. He's spoken about it. So, you didn't have the ability to criminally prosecute it. The feds weren't able to do it. And when I got into office, the attorney general had looked at it. My predecessor had looked at it, and they closed the case. And I was asked to reopen the case. And, no good deed goes unpunished. I did reopen it because I was hopeful at the end of 2017 that maybe something new would come up. Our investigation, we had investigators there. We had poll cameras. We did what we could, but we were not able to come up with sufficient information to prove a person guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in regards to Memorial Field. Okay. Are you
Mr.
frozen?
Scarpino, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So AJ apparently was dropped from air, so
Did I lose
he's
him?
not on. He'll be on in a moment. So let me pick up the line of questioning. So District Attorney Scarpino, I think the principal concern that many of us, especially in the city of Mount Vernon, have in terms of corruption is the harmful role that political campaign financiers have played in Westchester County politics, especially at the municipal level, and perhaps for many of us, the sort of poster child of political corruption gone amok in Westchester County is the well-known role that Joseph Spezio played in Richard Thomas's administration. Now, this is hardly the first time that the questionable role that Joseph Spezio has played in Mount Vernon city politics has been broached with your office.
We're having a technical difficulty. I do not know if you can still hear us.
Are you frozen?
Don't know if we lost both Bob and DA
I'm here.
Scarpino.
I see you.
I'm not quite sure what just happened. Please bear with us for a second while this clears up. Bob said 1 second.
So District Attorney Scarpino,
Okay.
so for many of us,
We had a technical glitch real quick. Okay, Bob, I don't see you on the screen right now. I don't know if you can hear me. Oh, you can hear. Okay. Everybody, can you still hear and see? Okay, Bob's on top of it. Okay.
Can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you now, District Attorney Scarpino. So the principal concern that many of us in the city of Mount Vernon have is the rather slow-footed response of the Westchester District Attorney's Office to the...
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now, District Attorney Scarpino. So the principal concern that many of us in the city of Mount Vernon have is the rather slow-footed response of the Westchester District Attorney's Office.
Can you hear me?
What? Okay. Can you hear me? I can hear you, District Attorney.
I can hear you. I heard you. You seem to stop, though.
Yeah, because I could hear a lot of feedback.
Wasn't
Everyone,
me.
of course, understands the technical glitches. So I think you got the basic gist of the question that I was raising, District Attorney Scarpino.
Yeah.
It seems like if anyone, some of the wrongdoings that were going on under the Thomas administration with respect to its relationship with Joseph Spezio were rather egregious. For example, the fact that this Mayor Thomas appointed him a deputy police commissioner at the same time that he was serving as a contractor with Westchester County and also with several municipalities in Westchester County meant that he and the mayor were both in a clear conflict of interest. And there were all troubling issues that had to do with whether or not his paperwork to serve in Mount Vernon was properly filled out. I mean, I have to say, District Attorney Scarpino, I want you to know, I'm astounded because district attorneys and police officers throughout the United States of America have been given license to accost ordinary citizens for the measliest of pretexts. Stop them over, take a look, issue subpoenas, all kind of stuff. And yet, figures like Joseph Spezio can do far more damage. The prima facie evidence is even more significant, and yet everyone seems to be handcuffed now, and we all want to know why.
Well, so here's the thing: Joseph Spezio's appointment, it was not a great move for anybody. It made it impossible for us to deal directly with the Mount Vernon Police Department with him being there. we received a lot of complaints in regards to him, whether he should have been able to be appointed to that. It was a lousy appointment. There's nothing I can say about that. But in regards to the nature of what we could do, it's based upon the fact that if there's criminal activity that was occurred, and was there evidence that we could prove that beyond a reasonable doubt? And the fact of the matter is, we had a lot of anecdotal information. We went down and we looked at many of the complaints that were given to us. Complaints were made to the federal authorities about it. Complaints were made to the Attorney General's office in regards to that, and in regards to Mr. Thomas. And the fact of the matter is, we're not able to come up with anything that we felt that we could prosecute and prove beyond a reasonable doubt. It was, as far as we were concerned, many of the incidents that we were hearing about were outside our jurisdiction and/or were criminal with a small c, meaning it was a crime that Mount Vernon had to be subjected to having an individual like that. It was a crime that Mount Vernon had dysfunctional government, but the resolution of it would be more by an electoral process where people are being removed by way of the electorate. In addition, some of the complaints that came in they're always being evaluated based upon the nature of who was making the complaint. It's not unusual, and I'm not just talking about Mr. Spezio's cases. It's not unusual for individuals who have personal issues with individuals or with personal administrations, they have problems, or they're involved in a campaign, or it's a power struggle, to try to draw law enforcement into an area to gain leverage in their cases and in their platforms. Law enforcement is always hesitant to jump into those matters. But the fact of the matter is, I would have prosecuted. There's no reason for me not to prosecute any individual in Mount Vernon if I had the evidence to do it. We looked at many of the cases that were presented to us, and it was our understanding that there were federal law enforcement were looking at some of these things. It's not unusual for us to work with them in that regard, or the Attorney General's office was working, as you know. Eric Schneiderman had brought charges against the mayor. But the fact is, we were not capable of doing it, that we felt that we could bring a case and be successful, except for the fact that ultimately he was removed based upon his arrest or his citation, and we prosecuted him for a matter that eventually led to his being fired at the end of his tour of duty.
So, District Attorney Scarpino, while I do understand that there are actual practical constraints on the ability of district attorneys' offices to prosecute cases, including your assessment of the viability of the case itself, there were at least a few instances of allegations of crime, politically related crimes in the city of Mount Vernon, where the evidence was much stronger. For example, in the United States of America, one of the basic tenets of our democratic system is that it is unacceptable for there to be any kind of physical assault confrontations with elected officials. But as you well know, one of Mount Vernon's most outspoken elected officials, the mayor's key arch nemesis, then City Councilman Andre Wallace, was in fact assaulted to one extent or the other. I don't think that's beyond dispute, by Mayor Thomas's brother. I know that your office was aware of this. I also know that your office is quite appreciative of the significance that this blow dealt to democratic politics in the city of Mount Vernon. And yet it seems something relatively simple. Other instances, even if there's a dispute about who is at fault, the party that had been accused by an elected official of assaulting them would have all likelihood at least been detained, asked to cool off, made to see the significance of their behavior. And yet many of us in the city of Mount Vernon sat around with our jaws hanging to the ground in utter disbelief that something so nakedly violative of our constitutional and democratic principles could be violated with no kind of punishment whatsoever. No.
So the answer to that is our investigation revealed something different than your opinion in regards to it, and that's why nothing came of it. That's all I can say in regards to it.
Okay, so you made a determination that both parties were at fault.
Our investigators and the head of our investigative unit made a determination that it was not quite the way you are explaining to have occurred.
Okay, you know what, District Attorney Scarpino, I'm going to say this to you. For the ordinary citizen, see, if it were me and I would have punched Andre, it wouldn't matter what your investigators would have found. I would have been arrested.
Well, whether or not, now wait a second.
District Attorney Scarpino, please, because your rebuttal is getting ready to call into question the experience, my personal experience, and experience of every other person who's listening right now. We see this as a clear case of double justice at work. If I go and hit if I am accused of striking any elected official in Westchester County, I am at the very least going to be detained. And we're still scratching our heads trying to figure out how all of these violations, from the most significant, the disregard of paperwork, to some things that were more mundane, like getting into a scrape, how all of this just went, nothing amounted to anything for your office. And I have to tell you, look, it is what it is, man. I'm telling you, I personally feel betrayed by your office. And I know I speak for many of our listeners. And I am sorry to have to say that to you.
Were you a witness to the incident?
No, I was not, District Attorney Scarpino.
So you're going to let me respond now?
District Attorney Scarpino, were you a witness?
No, but we
investigated. Neither of us were witnesses. District Attorney Scarpino, can you tell me of another instance where an elected official has been assaulted by someone, even if it was a mutual exchange, and there was not an arrest? There was a hue and a cry across the nation when a contender, matter of fact, this is a contender for office too, a Republican contender for office. There was a hue and a cry when a Republican contender for office from the state of Minnesota, I believe, struck a journalist. The reason why it was considered so significant is because it represented a breakdown of political norms and democratic norms in our society. This District Attorney Scarpino, I remain unconvinced. You can continue, and I don't mean to be rude. I want to allow you to make your case, but I find it very, very...
First of all, whether an arrest was made would have been a decision made by the local police at the time, number one, okay? We investigated it even though no arrest was made. Our determination obviously was based upon our interviews of what occurred, and a determination was made that the case was insufficient. And that was the decision that was made. Now and I can't talk about any more than the nature of that. It was investigated. We would have prosecuted that case if we felt we could sustain it. Your feelings are different. I understand that, but my world is different than your world, and any prosecutor's world is different than the world of the average citizen. It's based on the evidence that occurred, and there was more there than how you're explaining it.
Okay, I understand, District Attorney Scarpino. In addition to that, one of the things that left all of us, many of us in the local Mount Vernon scene, dissatisfied with the final resolution of the case is that there does seem to be a structural conflict of interest between the local district attorney's offices that rely on the the testimony and investigative discoveries of local police departments that are under the control of the mayor. In other words, it doesn't come as any surprise that the Mount Vernon Police Department and the local district attorney's office was unable to find corroborating evidence or found contradictory evidence when the police department was under the control, effectively, of Joe Spezio, and who is known to have been giving all kinds of instructions to folks to make sure that his wrongdoings were not uncovered. I mean,
what exactly is the question?
Isn't there a conflict of interest, District Attorney Scarpino, in the very way that the district attorney's offices operate throughout Westchester County?
I don't understand that question. No, there isn't a conflict of interest. We work with police departments on cases. At the same time, if a police department or a police officer does something inappropriate, we prosecute them. That's the nature of the relationship with district attorneys and law enforcement agencies. There's a tension. There always is a tension. But the fact of the matter is, we prosecute the cases that we can, and we are more than willing to prosecute either police officers for inappropriate conduct or the individuals that commit crimes that we can prove. I don't know how else to say it. If, in essence, it sounds like you're saying that district attorneys should not be involved in the prosecution of any case in which police departments were involved, and we are their partners on some matters, but we are also have the responsibility to ensure that they do the right job, that they don't use excessive force and things of that nature, and that's why we have 3 pending cases right now occurring out of Mount Vernon.
No, that's not what I'm saying, District Attorney Scarpino. What I'm saying is that your office has an obligation to not only ensure that crimes are thoroughly and fully prosecuted within any municipality, but you also have a responsibility to try to find ways to reduce these tensions and these conflicts that are known to historically exist wherever district attorneys are relying on police officers to provide them with discovery and other investigative services. And that, and what happened in Mount Vernon during the last administration is an example of precisely why we need our district attorney's offices to take a more proactive kind of role. I have to say that and I don't want to make this all about Mayor Thomas or the role of Joseph Spezio. There are other things to talk about as well, but it does demonstrate to us some of the real problems of political corruption that must be addressed, not just by our federal attorneys general or our state attorneys general, but also by local district attorneys. And one of the things that we would like to see going forward is district attorneys making a more vigorous effort to make sure that our communities are not exploited. Because one of the reasons that they're not working properly, in addition to whatever the residents of the city may be doing wrong, and they do things wrong. I admitted I sold drugs, and I had to come before your court, and you know what? You were right to hand down a sentence. And just as I had to pay the time for the crime that I did, so too do white collar criminals who are operating out of City Hall need to pay for their crime. So, okay, but you want me to tell you what? I don't know that I want to get. I guess that's all I have to say about that. I don't want that to become the totality of the show. Let's see. I guess it's just you and I now.
Where is everybody else?
Well, no. So everyone is listening. I'm sorry. Everyone is listening, but we had a technical problem. So AJ he's operating the platform from behind the scenes, but he's going to allow me to ask the rest of the questions. He apparently, I know. Oh, here he goes right now. No, there we go. And you'll, District Attorney Scarpino, you'll forgive us for the confusion. AJ Woodson. Mr. Woodson, we can hear you.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm trying to walk away from my speaker. I'm trying to walk away from the computer, so it's not questioning
with the district attorney.
I was able to hear that. I apologize. I don't think y'all can see me good. Hold on, let me turn my other phone off because I can hear feedback. Okay, now I'm sorry for the feedback. I know you can't see me because I'm sitting on my porch. I had to walk away from the computer. Bob, thank you for taking over and your diligence in your question asking. I do want to comment on one of DA Scarpino. There were two witnesses, from what I understand, in the situation with Andre Wallace and the assault on him by the mayor's brother, that were brought to you. And I also, while I was off the air, called former Mayor Andre Wallace to ask him, who also said that there was two witnesses brought to you in that situation. Hello? Did you hear my question? Were you able to hear my question?
I can't hear you. Can you see me, Dr. Bob? I can't hear you.
I know you can't see me. Can you hear me? Did you hear my question? Bob, take over. I'm actually still having problems, so
I can't hear you,
Bob.
Dr. Bob.
Can you hear me?
I think I just lost him.
Hello?
You might have the whole screen.
Hmm?
You may have the whole screen. That's what it looked like the last time.
Can you hear me? $7:45. Live.
Okay, can you hear me?
I'm not sure if you can hear us or not.
No.
Can you hear me? Okay, I just caught back up. I don't know, I think we lost Bob. Can DA Scarpino hear me? Can everybody out there hear me? Okay.
Dr. Bob, can you hear me?
Dr.
AJ?
Bob, I'm here and I can hear you. Can everybody listening, can you hear the DA and can you hear me?
May just be you.
Please let me know if y'all can hear. AJ, I hear you. And I can hear the DA. DA Scarpino, you cannot hear me?
I guess we will end it.
I apologize for the technical difficulties. I do know that everyone said that they could hear either Bob or myself. When he said he couldn't hear Bob, everyone said that they could hear Bob. When he said he couldn't hear me, everyone said he could hear. You could hear me. I don't know why there was a problem on his part on hearing everybody. I apologize for that. We'll try to do a follow-up. I thank Bob for his due diligence of stepping in. Okay, he's back. Bob is back. As soon as he comes on the screen, as soon as his video comes up, we will put him back on. New technology. This is the first time that I've actually used this program. So actually, while we're waiting, though, Let's pay some bills. Let me do that.
Ty Associates is a BBB accredited financial firm serving Mid-Hudson, New York, and the surrounding areas. From tax return preparation and amended returns to refund planning, we offer reliable financial services with keen attention to detail. Since 1998, we have proven the quality of our service with our clientele reaching across all 50 states. Ty Associates manages the Mets: money, energy, time, and space. Let us go to bat for you. Ty Associates, tying it all together.
That is our advertiser, Ty Associates. Thank them for supporting the show. You can take out 30-second, 60-second spots on the radio show. Just hit us at blackwestchester@gmail.com. Bob is trying to come back in. I'm waiting for him to come back on the screen, his camera to come back on so I can put him back on. We've lost the district attorney. I don't want to say thank you for all of those that are hanging in and have tuned in. Brenda said we could hear you, AJ, and the DA. The DA couldn't hear you. I could hear you, AJ, but he couldn't hear you. He was impatient and said it was 7:45. You're doing great, AJ. So there were several things that Bob asked him that he said he couldn't hear, and I had to have Bob text me, but Damon and everyone else said they could hear Bob, but the district attorney could not. And then at the end, he said he could not hear me, but all of you could. So that was actually either an error on his part or he did not want to hear us. There's a lot that I can say. I thank Bob for taking over and addressing this is where we were going anyway, for taking it to those questions that we were going to get to. I don't agree with some of the district attorney's answers. A lot of people were commenting and sending me texts that you felt that he was lying or being very critical at the very least. I will say, and a couple of people said, why are we letting him run on? One of the key things that I learned it early on, but then it was reiterated in me by Bob Marone when he was on WFAS and then VOX, and now he has Radio Westchester. One of the most important things is getting the elected official or the candidate on record, on video, on the record. So I do stand by, and I will look for that video because I do remember that he spoke against and was urging for the county legislator and the county exec to vote. He was against the bail reform months before it took place. It was video. I'm sure it was a county video, and all their videos stay on their website. So I will have to go through their website and find the video so I can share with y'all what it is that I'm talking about. Andre Wallace was tuned in. I don't know if he's still tuned in. And even he said there was 2 witnesses, and there was a few other people that said there were witnesses in that case. I don't believe that there is some law, and I might need some people I might need Brenda or somebody to look it up. There is something about an elected official being an attack on an elected official, that it is treated worse than an attack on a regular person. And if the threat to Andre's life, I shared the comment. I shared the story where he was threatened, where his life was threatened by then acting Commissioner Spezio, and then the assault on him in front of his brother, the mayor, and the mayor's detail. And I don't know how that report was written up, but it's hard to have a fair investigation when the people that you're complaining about are the police and the mayor, or are related to the police and related to the mayor. They have the power of putting a report together any way they want. And that is what That's what the DA is saying that he went on as far as the evidence was concerned. I'm not sure what investigation. I like to speak to people. I've been critical of the job of the district attorney. There has not been. I don't pretend not to have been. I tried to give him as far as a fair and partial interview. I let him even talk about some of the stuff that he wanted to talk about and take up a lot of time, and didn't get to some things. But so Hector said so we're not going to pretend that the Scarpino isn't following social distancing. Yeah, I'm not really happy the way he left. I'm not really pleased with the fact that he kept claiming he couldn't hear things. I don't think he answered Bob's questions well. And thank you, Bob, for not giving up on the questions. Brenda said, threatening government officials of the United States is a felony under federal law. Threatening the president of the United States is a felony under 18 U.S.C. Section 871, punishable by 5 years imprisonment. That is investigated by the United States Secret Service. So the threat of a government official is a felony under federal law. And that's what Bob asked him. If he, as a citizen, was to threaten an elected official, it would be a different story, because there is a law on the threatening of an elected official. And I think he dropped the ball in that situation. Maybe he was given bad information. Maybe there were doctored reports. I don't know. But thank you, Brenda. She always does that. No, he's not going to call back. He did not really want to do this interview. It took a while to set it up. They contacted us the day after we had his opponent, Mimi Rocha, on. The campaign contacted us about something she said that they disagreed with. And we, from that point, was trying to get him here. And even though I did not have this technology down, and that's why I was playing with it, and Damon couldn't be here, who knows how to run this program. I didn't want to let the opportunity pass to do this interview with this election coming up. You can see that he couldn't hear you. It was an error on his part with the technology on his part, yes. He couldn't take the heat, so he ran out of the kitchen, D. Wilson said. Peg Moore said he could have called you back. That's not going to happen. He has the link. It's the same link. He can just click back on that link, and he'll pop up on my screen, and I will put him back into the picture. Janelle O'Britton was like, always good to get things on the record. What an amazing conversation. Thank you, AJ and Bob, for setting this up. I can't tell you who to vote for. But for all the people watching that are still watching and that will watch this later on Black Westchester, whatever you saw and however you feel about this interview and about the answers and the way they were answered, you need to consider that when it comes time, election time. One second. You need to consider that when it comes time, election time. I would, Mimi Rocha, we didn't get a chance to do this. Mimi Rocha challenged Scarpino to a debate on the show. I don't see that happening now, but we will definitely welcome it if he would like to come on and do that. I will extend that invitation to his campaign, but I'm not really, I don't know if that'll happen. Stranger things have happened. I didn't think he would come on the show at all, to be honest. I was surprised when we finally got an answer for him to come. I thank everybody for tuning in. I hope that you got some kind of impression of the district attorney. This is a very vital, important race. We need answers from the people running this office and the people holding this office, and the people holding this office need to be kept their feet to accountable. Their feet, they need to be kept accountable. One of the things that I asked him that he really didn't answer was about the bad cop list and about his one of his people being on it. The article we wrote, Bob, I don't see you yet. I hear you. I'm going to try to put you on, see if that comes in. Hold on. You should be popping up on the screen any minute. I don't see you. Please speak if you can hear me. Dr. Bob, if you can hear me, speak. Maybe he just has to turn his camera on or something. We'll wait and see if he comes back in, because I'm sure he has a wrap up that he would like to share. And I would like to give him the opportunity. Yeah, going back to the bad cop list, we were very critical that he did not release the list, and we called out the fact that was the reason he didn't release the list because somebody in his office that's in the intel that handles intel was on that list. He said that just shows that it was transparency that he put the list out with him on it. I don't think we gave him much of a choice, because had he not put the name on it and we had already mentioned that he was on the list, I think it would have been. I don't think it would have been a great look. So I don't think he had it. I think he, he's. And as far as the I think he indicted an officer from Mount Vernon, and it was the day before. It was the day before the Mount Vernon Democratic Convention, where they were going to vote on who the nominee was. And the 24 hours within 24 hours of that vote, he then indicted an officer of Mount Vernon. And even though I never asked him, he said once or twice he did this because it was the right thing to do, not because of the campaign, which is something I never asked him. Sometimes you got to listen to what people say and what they don't say, and sometimes when people defend stuff that you didn't accuse them of, you have to listen about that too. Bob was in. He was on the screen. I don't know what happened. I think he tuned out. One of the comments stated that he was lying about the individual that works for him. Yes, there was few comments about that. That his answer was not all the way true. Again, I believe, and this is my belief, and I'm clear. This is AJ Woodson. I say this is my belief. Could it be because his investigator is on that list, Andrew Ludlam? And then he didn't release the list to us. The Gothamists did foil it, but I understand that it was just given to LoHUD without a foil. And it was only because I made a big stink about it that, we can't do his side of the story if he don't ever talk to us. And the negotiation about bringing him on the show, did he then provide us with the list days later? I'm going to try to put Bob back in again. Bob, are you 2-1? Okay, Bob, can you hear us? Can you hear us, Bob? Bob, can you hear us? Bobby, can you hear us? Bob, can you hear us? Can you hear me, Bob? You see me laughing. I guess but can you hear me, though? You hear us? Bobby, can you hear us?
I can hear you now.
All right. So Bob, would you like to wrap up? We're coming to the close of the show. Would you like to wrap up your interaction with the district attorney?
I can hear you now. So, AJ, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to have some closing comments. I'm not going to offer any because, unfortunately, I can hear a lot of reverberation on my side as I'm speaking. So I'll just allow you to.
Wait. Do you have your phone? Do you have your phone on? The volume on your phone? Are you watching on Facebook on your phone?
Offer any because
if so, turn your phone off.
I can hear a lot of. I'm on Facebook. On my side as I'm speaking.
Okay, on your phone and on your computer. Wait, do you have your phone? Do you have your phone on? The volume on your phone? Are you watching on Facebook on your phone? He's coming back. I did that. That's why I had to walk out, because I also had my phones on while I was watching the show to see what it is that y'all see. And I tried to step outside away from my computer, because that's why you were getting the echo. Both my computer and on Bob should be popping up now. Okay. Mr. Baskerville, Dr. Bob Brook, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. So we were talking about. I was summing up the interview. I was summing up this performance. I thanked you for stepping in when the audio evidently went out on my side. I did make notice that I will give the benefit of the doubt. There may have been audio problem on his side, but it was Damon and others made the comment that if we can hear you, he should be able to hear you too. And when I was talking at the end, everybody could hear me, but he couldn't hear. So that may have been technical difficulties on his side. I don't know, or maybe he just didn't want to hear. Maybe we'll never find out. But I was saying that, and I'm gonna wrap this up in a minute and let you have your time. I was saying that while he said that his investigator being on the list that he released was his proof of his transparency. I mean, we called him out, and he kind of had no choice but to release it. And continue to leave that name on the list, because had he admitted that name, he would have caught more. Politically, it wouldn't have been good for him. I think that a couple of situations he didn't truthfully answer, and we talked about. You missed it. Brenda pulled up. There is a law against an assault or attack on an elected official. There is a law. It's a state law again, and I think it's definitely a federal law against anything against a elected official. So I don't think his answer was very sincere on that. But I want you to go ahead and give your closing, your summary of the interview and your interaction with him, what you felt.
Well, as someone who has been an ardent opponent of the Thomas administration, precisely because of all of the ethical cloud that's hung over Mayor Thomas' administration and before he was sworn into office, I was especially concerned about some of the relationships going on behind the scenes. And as I already said to the district attorney, I didn't find his responses to be particularly persuasive. It's very important for everyone to insist now at this moment of national crisis that we hold our highest elected officials.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Yeah.
So I just got a text, and it said, please tell the audience that the DA said thank you and that he would like to come back. Sorry that he was not able to say goodbye. We lost the connection. So we're going to follow up with him and give and do a part 2 if he's actually willing to do so, and give him the benefit of the doubt that maybe there was some technology problems on his side, and we're going to follow up on this. So he did read this, and I just saw the text, and I did at least want to share that. I still believe what I said is true, but I want to share that he did respond back, though. Go ahead, Bob.
Right. Well, as I was saying, that at this moment of national crisis, we see the importance now more than ever of holding our elected officials and appointed officials to the same high standards of performance and integrity and legality that is expected of so many, that's expected of ordinary citizens. And just as there can be no excuses when, ordinary Jane or John commits some sort of criminal offense, one has to be answerable to before the court of laws. So too do these the legions of white collar criminals who are exploiting people either in the halls of government or in private corporations in Westchester County and throughout the United States, not to speak of the rest of the damn globe. They need to be held to the same high standards. There's no sense in us instituting broken windows policies that look to imprison the poor when they pee on the sidewalk, and yet we can ignore when our elected and appointed officials essentially, and y'all are going to forgive me, shit on the municipalities that they represent by fleecing them of large sums of money, by ignoring rules of accountability, by turning a blind eye when they engage in crimes against the people. Because you know, our governments no longer work, and so it is a very corrosive kind of impact that this kind of slow-footed prosecution policy that too many DAs across the United States have adopted when it comes to white-collar criminals it's not acceptable. So that's all I'm going to say, AJ. You know, as far as the district attorneys I'm interviewed, let me say, you know, hey, I appreciate the district attorney joining us on air. I'm sure that given People Before Politics track record, the track record of Black Westchester, he knew that he would be given a critical reception, and, you know, kudos to him for not shying away and coming on and you know, being answerable to the people. So I do hope we have an opportunity to have him back on air, and hopefully at that point we'll have an opportunity to work out some of the technical kinks in the system.
Well, if Damon wasn't working, Damon pretty much worked out a lot of them. I mean, it was we'll I just wanted, so let me just say straight up. So I did say, you know, I got the call 7 o'clock this morning that Damon had to go to work, 7, 8 o'clock. So, and I had like 2 hours to work with him to get through some technical stuff to get this up and running. And then I tried to work on it during the day a little bit. I hadn't used the program before. So I was trying to work on it as best as I could, because I thought that it would still be important. Knowing that I didn't have it down, I thought it was still important that we did not cancel the district attorney interview. I think it was very important. I hope overall people got something out of it. Excuse the technical difficulties. This is the new world we're living in. This is one of the formats that we're trying out. Again, you know, Black Westchester and People Before Politics had to rethink the way we do everything it is that we do right now. You understand what I'm saying? Because of this, like a lot of other industries, a lot of other businesses, we had to rethink everything. So for those people who bared with us and toughed it out with us through the technical difficulties and all that, and also apologize to Bob because I heard nothing on my end and thought it was dead air. And that's why I started talking. So no, because I actually interrupted the flow.
Right.
And I've been told adamantly that by a few people.
This wasn't one of those instances, AJ. We knew you just didn't hear what was going on. And
right. So it was like,
we'll continue to work on it.
Damn, hey, you done messed it all up. Yo, Bob was on a roll. Like, yeah, I got a couple of those. So I appreciate even that, the critique and all that. And Hector made a funny joke. It's funny to see our generation try to navigate through new technology. He actually said a little more than that, but I paraphrased it. Smart ass Hector.
He was like, yo, gray beards. Look at the gray beards trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I look every bit of the age my beard like makes me look right now. So, you know, but I mean, we appreciate everybody though. Hold on. We appreciate, Hold on 1 second. So we appreciate everybody for tuning in. Like everybody else's house, my house is full of people too, and they're wondering it's after 8 o'clock and why you know, my door's still closed and I'm still on and they have to be quiet. So I'm not going to take this too much farther. Thank you everybody for tuning in. I will try to do my best to do some kind of have David download this whole thing and get the video up on Black Westchester before the end of the week. We will follow up with the district attorney and we will follow up with Mimi Roca, and hopefully. Oh, I brought some food. I appreciate you. Now you know I gotta go. So I got some shrimp and some rice and some potato salad. So now y'all know I gotta go. I don't know if y'all can see the picture.
Yeah. I got mine too. I took a couple of bites and left it when the show started.
Yeah. So thank you, Tracy, Tammy, and whoever else contributed to cooking tonight. Shout out to them. They hold me down when I'm trying to do all of this stuff. So we're gonna try to get this up in a couple of days. Feel free to keep the comments coming, and We will probably try to do a part 2, and we also will try to make the debate of the candidate forum happen live, and hopefully Corona will go somewhere and we can get back to some source of normalcy, and we will be in the studio, and I wouldn't have had none of these problems. But I'm sure the DA was a lot happier not having to see us, having Bob sitting right next to him and me sitting across from him. I'm sure it was a little easier to do this over a video in the safety of your own home. But shout to him for props for coming on the show, because very many people didn't believe that he was actually going to come, and I actually was one of them. I didn't think he was ever coming on the show, so he did. I mean, we will try to get a part 2. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This is Black Westchester. Bob, any last words?
No, that'll be all. I want everyone to continue to follow the recommendations of our health officials to maintain social distance, washing of hands. It's a very serious health challenge that we're facing, everyone, and I hope you all act accordingly.
In closing, I just want to shout out our advertisers, Top Class Limousine, call for prom night, night out, wedding specials. Tell them Black Westchester told you to call and get 15% off. Number is 914-423-5466. Everything I mentioned, and I will put the flyer up on People Before Politics. Shout out to the Democratic Party endorsed candidates for Yonkers City Court, Judge Thomas Daly, Attorney Veris Shako, who would be the first African American female on the court, and Judge Brendan McGrath. I will put their flyer up. Also, a candidate that we're going to try to reschedule for this week. We canceled for last week. Also running for the city court judge, Dan Romano, Democrat running for city court judge in Yonkers, and Cupcake Cutie, a constant supporter of course, Thai Associates, and everybody else who holds us down. We thank you for making this possible to continue to do what it is we do. This has been episode 255, coronavirus social distancing edition. We will have some of the bugs worked out much better before we next meet. Until next week, peace.
You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.
I apologize, and I want to interrupt because I just got a text that one of the listeners, Peter Plati, P-L-A-T-I, has passed due to coronavirus. Peter, P-L-A-T-I, Plati, I believe that's the name. He was a constant listener and viewer of People Before Politics. I see Andre Wallace had just posted, my heart is deeply saddened after receiving a call that Peter Plati has passed due to coronavirus. Please pray for his family. The show is over, but I wanted to get that in at the end of the video. I wanted to offer my condolences to his family. He was a great supporter of People Before Politics and listened and commented on every show. So thank you. Let's keep him in your prayers, and everybody else who's going through any of this. And also, let's keep in our prayers our healthcare workers and all the people on the front line, the police, the fire, emergency services, delivery drivers, supermarket workers, everybody out there who's still working, an essential employee that's providing services that we need or taking care of us. Let's pray for all of them. Let's practice social distancing. And in closing, stay your ass in the house.
Yes, stay in the house.